show blew up in my face. Woke up on the floor, couldn't take no more, my darkest day. But I can't lose sleep on what I cannot change. I chased the lightning, I got soaked in the rain. Danced with my demons till I couldn't see straight. Try to twist me, but I still won't break. I don't mind. I'll find a way.
Hi, everybody, and welcome into the bridge. I'm not Phil Wallace, but she is Kelly Vance. Phil Wallace is en route right now, got hung up in traffic. On a Good Friday, a lot of people must be going to the churches or something like that, and stuck behind a little bit of traffic. So when he gets here, I'll bow out. Of course, a big shout out to our friends over at Century 21. You are an amazing realtor.
Yes.
And if you're looking to buy, sell, rent or something, you have that go, right?
Absolutely. Century 21 Integra would love to be able to help you out.
That is awesome. Kelly Vance, of course. Behind us in the producer's booth, joining us again is our good friend, Kelsey.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be here today.
And of course, that voice you'll recognize from her show. What is it?
Big Body, Bigger Mouth, every other Monday, 5 p.m.
I love it.
Yes.
And of course, she doesn't have a last name. She's like Cher and Madonna.
Nice. I like
Yeah,
it.
just
I like
Kelsey.
it.
Oh,
Kelsey.
thank you.
It's just
Yeah,
Kelsey.
Just
Just
Kelsey.
Kelsey. It'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it, if we
Yeah.
all just
Right.
one name?
That's it.
Yeah, just one name.
Yeah, just it. Easy.
It's just me.
She really didn't ever know how to spell her last name. That's why she doesn't have one. So, it's
Some
too hard.
last names you need
It's just
to
too hard. I just
Right.
get rid of it.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah,
have a song that
please.
goes with it so you can tune it out.
It's actually the same as the people on Bob's Burgers.
Oh,
Yeah,
that is awesome.
that's how I remember.
Ah,
I love Tina. Anyway, so today, of course, talking about what would you give up to build a bridge, and we talked about that because of the weight that this is my very, very favorite day in the Christian calendar, and people are like, "What am I? It's just heavy, dark, and oof, I love it." Right?
well, and it's not that you love dark, but I think it's good to just pause and take it on.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is awesome. So with that, what are things that you have to give up to build a bridge?
Well, there are a lot of things you have to give up to build a bridge.
Yeah.
Time, comfort, convenience, resources,
Fear.
yourself. You have to give up all those things within you that would hold you back, like you said, fear.
I mean, because I look at
Pride.
a bridge, right? I look at a bridge and I'm like, man, you're spanning something. I mean, a little foot bridge is one thing, making it across a creek, but you look at the Golden Gate Bridge and you're like, man, you're way up in the air, or the Mackinac Bridge, a 5-mile bridge. You're just like, my goodness, and you're stuck 3 miles out over the water on a piece of metal or something. That's a lot of fear. So, and I think when we talk about the metaphorical bridges that we build here, I think that's one of the things that most people do not want to give up.
Is there comfort?
Or fear. Yeah.
Oh, get their fear. But just imagine, think about the view on that bridge. Like we think about the fear, but if you think about the view and you get over the fear and you're free from the fear, like the view without fear, amazing, right? You can't, it's a whole new perspective.
It is, and it's also interesting. There was that big ship that hit the bridge, right? Which is a horrible thing, but it was interesting to watch that bridge fall, right? How and what I mean is how the parts all worked together, and it just hit one main thing and just went, and there's pieces to that in the bridges that we build. It's just one bad support, you give something up, or a word, or a look, or a something, and the next thing you know, the entire bridge is collapsed.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's crazy, and it can tumble fast.
It
doesn't take much sometimes.
And to me, I think, and I get to just play a little bit until Phil gets here, and then I got to run. But to me, the fun part is, I think it's the little things that people don't want to give up that allow the bridge to never be built. Right? Oh yeah, no. Hey, listen, I'll write you a check. Right? But then I'm over here, saying that bridge isn't going to be built in this. You know what I mean? I felt good because I wrote you. They're not willing to give things up, certain things up, which then allows it to never necessarily get built.
Yeah, and I think building a bridge really is going to require all of you. Yeah. At different points. It's not like all of you all at once necessarily, but definitely all of you is going to be impacted by the building of this bridge to persevere. And a lot of times it calls for full devotion. I mean, it depends on your bridge. Like if you're just setting out to make someone's day, a smile, paying forward with helping with groceries, sending them flowers. There's ways that we can build little bridges that make an amazingly huge impact that don't cost us but a little bit of time and inconvenience, right? Or a little bit. But when we start putting ourselves out there to build like a bigger bridge, it does require a little bit more. But I have to say, whatever's required, and I felt like I've been giving up, or you felt like you've been giving up, don't you think? See on the other side, your perspective and also what you've gained is so much greater.
Yeah. So
much greater. But I do like when we were talking about earlier, what you said about instead of Christ giving it all up.
Right, because a lot of people say, man, look what he sacrificed, right? Especially today, Good Friday in the Christian world. This is the day that this is when death came home, right? Look what he sacrificed, right? What he sacrificed for us. I'm like, did he? Or, what did you take on, right? What are you willing to take on to build the bridge?
Yeah, he took on the sin of the world, and that certainly wasn't pretty.
Right? No.
I mean, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't glamorous. He didn't take
the whole world shook.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about that. It wasn't a robe.
Right.
It wasn't a platform that was pretty.
No.
And his closest friends betrayed him.
Yeah.
Sometimes you lose a lot.
Right. Right. So, are you willing to give those friendships up for your bridge? Are you willing to take on the loneliness of building a bridge without their support?
Right. And sometimes we have to do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you waver in doubt. And I guess I just want to say to those out there that are if there's anyone out there in the middle of building your bridge and you're like, wow, because there's times, you may get up at night or you may get up in the morning and be like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because right now I feel lonely. Right now it feels like I don't have the support I thought I'd have. Right now I feel like I'm at a crossroads. Keep going. Keep going, because yes, if that's what you're being called to do, it's normal to take on those things along with the great things.
A lot of this show is, we talk a lot about social issues and things of that nature, right? Mm-hmm. And people are moved with passion to do things, right? But there are, as we talked about on the earlier show, the grounds, there are a lot of haters out there, right? Are you willing to give up what people think? Are you willing to give up the popular vote, right? To build that bridge. And we take a look at the great trailblazers, right? Lewis and Clark, Laura Ingalls Wilder, Amelia Earhart, people who created incredible bridges. What are you willing to take on? Are you willing to take on the Wild West? Are you willing to take on the common thought? That's, are you willing? Hey, come on up, Phil. Phil Wallace, everybody. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Good to see you.
I'm moving elderly today.
What's that?
I'm moving elderly today.
Oh, a little slow.
Sciatica is horrible.
Oh man, now you gotta sit.
But I won the game of one-on-one though.
So was it worth it? See, he took on the pain of sciatica to win the one-on-one.
They were playing fives at Prairie Stone, and I sat. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna risk it. One of my kids goes, check up, coach. Got the side court right here. He's getting better. So I'm like, all right, 11-6, right? We won. But as soon as we got home, I was like, oh,
Yeah. Look, he was willing to give up comfort
Comfort,
for his bridge.
right? Every day.
Right.
Comfort.
I could have just been sitting, walking normal, but no.
That's right.
To make that connection on that side of the bridge.
Now you're walking like Red Fox. Oh,
Whoa.
you dummy.
Oh, you big dummy.
That's Kelsey. That's a TV show from the 70s and 80s.
Oh, hi, nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to meet you.
Kelly.
That's Kelsey. I'm Phil.
That's good. But yeah, I've got to run because I've got a 9:30. I really wish I could stick around because I love this. But yeah, what are you willing to give up? Are you willing to go
Or
against
take on.
the
Right.
the flow?
Freely, what do you think trips people up on this?
I think that what trips people up on this is two things. I think one is their inability to see the other side of where you're building the bridge to, right? And the other is they're so that they don't want to give up what it may look like to the general public, right? If Christ worried about that, he'd been like, I'm going to go check out America. It's not America yet, but I'm going to go check out there because the people who hate me ain't there right now, right? Or maybe South Africa. I don't know. I said America, but America didn't even exist back then. I mean, it did exist. I mean, it just wasn't called America. Anyway, but you know what I mean? If he worried about what people thought and their opinion, and I think that's the biggest anchor that why people won't take something on. You got to be willing to take on that criticism. You got to be willing to have thick skin to build a bridge.
Because I feel like a lot of situations people know that something's wrong, right? But I won't speak up about an injustice that we see overseas or wherever next door because I don't want to be embarrassed to Ken. I don't want Ken to think, oh, you care about those people, like, or you're about the right. It's right, it's wrong. A lot of people don't want to speak up on it.
That's true.
And it can be something as simple as just stating the obvious.
Oh, wow.
See you later. Have a good day.
Happy Easter, Good Friday.
Happy Good Friday. It could be something as simple as not stating the obvious because we've been so programmed over the last years to be politically correct.
Right.
And people are literally not doing well. I mean, I just had a situation this week where somebody that I knew wasn't doing so well, and it was very obvious. And yet, what do you say? What do you do? And you just got to say the obvious, right?
Right.
And take that risk that sometimes people might be upset with you for stating the obvious.
Yeah.
But if you don't, you're just kind of really becoming a part of the problem and letting people perish, right? And so I think, and like with Christ, back to what's been really amazing to me as I've been looking in the scriptures this week, is I never realized that Mary Magdalene, I'm pretty sure, who anointed the alabaster jar all over Jesus and anointed him, poured the oil on his head. Expensive, cost her everything. That full devotion cost her everything. The disciples mocked her. They all, thought it was ridiculous. They thought she was being wasteful. They thought she was throwing out this expensive perfume and they could have done something more noble with it. And then in the very same paragraph in the book of Mark is Judas going out to betray Jesus and betraying him for 30 shekels, which is nothing, not a lot of money in that time. It's nothing. And he was, a disciple. And it's amazing to me to see the contrast of full devotion is costly and betrayal is cheap, and how easily we can bail on that. You know what I mean? Like, where do we stand? Where do we stand? Are we going to even betray the calling? Are we going to betray where God's calling us to go? And yet then you got Christ, who literally was not moved by either. He wasn't puffed up by the alabaster jar, and he wasn't discouraged by Judas. He stayed focused on the role of which he came to fulfill here on earth for us to build the ultimate bridge.
Okay, so going off of what you're saying there, so Judas did it for a couple of shillings, and he betrayed Jesus. Do you think we kind of had this conversation? I was outside of the coffee shop. We kind of talked about how sometimes people will skip their calling for the paycheck, right? And when you look at the shillings that they get for it, it's not that much, especially when you look at what you gave up that God had a calling for you.
You never know.
That'll go unsaid.
You'll never know.
You'll never.
And Jesus, I mean, she is, every time the gospel's shared, she's a part of that story.
Right.
With Judas, he, his intestines spilled out in the middle of a field and he hung himself. I mean, do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was what the result was. So think about that. That little bit of instant gratification always leads to regret.
I gotta give this to Adelia. I gotta give this to Adelia. She's gonna run with this one.
Oh,
Absolutely. And like you said, that immediate gratification versus like actually something of purpose, whether that is just being decent to an individual in that moment or working for something that you know is going to help people and create a solution long term. I think that we focus too much on the right now versus, okay, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, do I still want this to be about? Do I still want these conversations to have? Do I still want this group being looked at or judged or whatever this way? Like, it's got to start somewhere. And so many people say, well, like, I can't make a difference on blah, 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 one person. You can.
oh my goodness, you can. You totally can. You totally can. There's hurting people everywhere. And just, it starts sometimes with something as simple as a smile.
Right.
You can make a difference. We're all created to.
And it may not be thousands of people, but like to the ones that you do make a difference at, man, it is so neat.
Oh my gosh, and you don't know. I read this one quote that's always kind of stuck with me because for the most part, I was a stay-at-home mom. I did a little bit of jobs here and there to get by, but when we needed us to. But sometimes the most important thing you can do with your life and your greatest calling is your child.
Right.
Is raising your child. And to stick with your kids through thick and thin, to be there with them, to model love. You don't know what you're pouring into. You could be pouring into the next whomever, that because of your investment and your willingness to pour into them,
Right.
they're able to be who they're called to be. So I think the problem we get into with this bridge building thing is we start comparing bridges and we start weighing bridges based on the amount of people that it might touch versus the depth. God looks at things from a whole. He's an Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So it's a bigger picture than what we're seeing. I think sometimes the danger is we think our bridge needs to look a certain way instead of just realizing what part are we called to play today to make the world a better place.
Being from Pensacola, I think about Pensacola Bridge that goes to Gulf Breeze, where you see like the Pensacola beach sign, blah, blah, blah. Beautiful beach, known all around, blah, 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 gets highlighted or whatever, or San Francisco, their bridge. But if you put a bridge in a village, it allows them to not have to go track around for clean water, and it saves them 2 hours on their hike. It may not be tens of thousands of people that just, for that village, you made a huge difference. That huge difference. And like you're saying, so many people are like, I don't know if it's worth it. I promise you for them it would be. I promise you the appreciation level would actually be higher because I've never thanked the person for the Pensacola Bridge or any other bridge. But if it was and it helped me not have to climb treacherous terrain for 2 hours, man, thank you so much for building a bridge here where it meant the world to me. It happened all the time.
Absolutely. And I think about even the school we're building in Uganda, in this remote village. Our school is very beautiful. I mean, for down there, it's beautiful. And somebody had said to Mark, why would you build this nice of a school in a remote village versus in the town, like where it's seen? And it's like, wow. Think about that. I mean, that's what we write. We want the big. It's like this is exactly where it needs to be.
Yes, the alabaster story all over again. sugar.
Yeah.
Why are you wasting that on his
Yes.
cake?
Why are you wasting that in a remote village? And it's like, isn't that what makes the world a better place? Is when we see people, the ground is level at the foot of the cross.
Man.
You know what I'm saying?
But
That's what makes that school so, well, it's special to me, but special. I mean, and they own it. They're excited.
yeah, but I can never tell another person where to give a blessing.
Well, I think people tell us all the time where to give a blessing, Phil. So maybe you couldn't. But come on, I got people telling me all the time where I should give my blessing.
Right, but like, and then even when we met, you like we're over here in Uganda, and I was like, that's great. Like, and it was like, I bless here, she blessed there, but I love that. I can like, my way over there. Shut up, Phil. Like, it's not my job to tell you where to bless people, especially like when you're not doing it for the wrong reasons, or you're adjusting your level of blessing wholeheartedly just because it's over there. You're doing it full throttle. How would I stop that? Anybody willing to give a full throttle blessing, go for it. Wherever you feel called to. Wherever you feel called to.
Wherever you feel called to is right. And I did like Ken's perspective of Christ not sacrificing, but Christ taking it all on.
Mhm.
Because I think sometimes, I'm sure you feel this with coaching, there's times where you get tired.
And my lower back.
And you're like, that's hurting.
That's where I feel it.
Right? You're like, dang, it would have been a lot easier just to not get in the game, right? It would have been a lot easier to coast through. But taking it on, I just love that visual. I don't think I'm ever going to forget it, because on the days where you can feel like it's a little bit heavy or a little bit much, it's like, Christ did this for us.
Right.
What can I do for others?
I was actually talking to a police officer in Cary, and he was talking about, he's like, when you even look at the cross and you see, it's showing that Jesus went through it. So it's not saying that you're not going to go through these things. Mm-hmm. But he's there, and he's looking at you, listening to you pray about you. It's like, go on, tell me about your bad day. I'm here for you. Like,
yeah.
And he had that person. But he's like, I'm listening, but we go through it, and it's for a better good. I was like, I get it. It's a cool perspective.
That is a very cool perspective. And just to be able to persevere for think about it. Sunday's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So today it was looking pretty grim. So if you're in a season of life, or you're setting out to build a bridge and it's looking pretty grim, Sunday's coming. We don't ever land, and the story doesn't end at the crucifixion.
Hello.
And I think even in our own stories, it doesn't end when it gets hard. It doesn't end. It's not the time to bail. It's the time to persevere and press on, because Sunday's coming and it's going to be good.
So my aunt is joining our business team, and I'm so proud of her, like seeing her fired up and positive and posting audios and stuff like that. And she literally said, thank you for holding on and persisting, whatever. But it's totally fun to watch relationships get restored and built because of what we're working on.
Yeah.
And then the family seeing it. And it's been like a couple of years, like, why don't you guys get about what we're doing? But now, like, the Sunday's coming type of thing, where it's like, okay, how do we work together? How do we put this in the past? How do we nip this in the bud? How do we have these conversations? Like, all this stuff that's been like an issue a little bit, like getting restored, getting healed, overcome, like, and building and moving towards the future. Like, so worth it. So worth those conversations to build bridges. Like, hey, listen, let's bridge this. Where was the misunderstanding originally?
Yeah.
Because we don't need to be like this, especially when we have this greater purpose for us to accomplish. Let's get past this. It's so fun to watch.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. And isn't that the goal of, if our bridges are just about tasks,
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably have a pretty shallow, pretty weak bridge.
Right.
But when you see relationships being restored, and when people come together, not only do people get blessed, but these people, like, relationships are restored. That's that's the goal, isn't it? That's what Christ did.
Right.
He hung on the cross to restore relationship ultimately. And hopefully the things that we're stepping out to do that.
So what strengthens a bridge is the material, and you let this up, so that's why
Good.
If I'm bridging for ego, that's a weak bridge.
Oh yeah, that's a bridge that's gonna fall.
If I'm bridging for social media to see what I did for Kelly, I bought this coffee, it's a weak bridge. But if I'm bridging for purpose, if I'm bridging for the kingdom, that's a strong bridge. That's a stable bridge. That's what's going to help a lot of people. So we invite you, as you're bridging these conversations and bridging these relationships and looking to understand maybe a different demographic or a different culture or whatever it is that you feel called to bridge, keep in mind why you're looking to bridge it. It can't just be for ego. If I want to have a conversation of what it was like to be a single mom, then I need to be like, well, I don't have any preconceived notions. I'm not going to tell her what her experience was. And I really have to approach that conversation open-minded and like, I'm here to learn.
Yes. Absolutely. And you can learn so much if you just hold that stance.
Right.
And your mind can be expanded to think. Sometimes I think the biggest problem is we think we know, and we really don't.
Even when you're saying that people tell you where you're supposed to bless others, kind of even in seeing it, I haven't said what got you there. It's kind of but not really 3 or 4 layers deep into. So what are you saying when you do it? It's like, how do you feel called and how do you overcome this? Like, and really get an understanding, because I feel once you ask a person why they do what they do and you see them light up, I can't dim that.
Yeah.
I can, once you really, and just when you watch the kids' faces and the ladies, they feel so confident now that they're making dress. I can't dim that. Man, go ahead. Like, do it. Like, go full throttle in that. You're happy. Why would I tell you to come back to the States and do something that's mundane for you? No. Bless full throttle of whatever awakens your soul.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you'll see a little bit glimpses of the fruit, I think. You can see as you go. I mean, I certainly, like I think I've told you. And now you've always loved basketball. So we're going to get to that in a second.
Sure.
But with mine, just briefly, I wasn't setting out to build a school in Uganda. I was setting out to be able to impact one person's life that I felt called to. And it led to much more. And I'm grateful because God knows me well enough to know that if He'd probably given me the full picture, I would have probably been like,
He does that,
next, pick someone else. And part of it through it, as you persevere through that, God gives us each the amount of faith according to what we need.
Right.
And so there have been people in my life who maybe didn't have the faith to know what was coming through this journey. And I had to persevere from that. And I had a friend tell me once, there's always going to come a point in time in our journey where we have to stand alone with Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to know that you're standing alone with Jesus and you're going to keep walking. And now that things are starting to happen, people can see. We either walk by faith or we walk by sight. Right? And if we're not given the faith to believe in the vision or the mission, which I don't, this isn't a diss on anybody. I was the one who needed to have the faith to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then when people see it, they can see the victory. It's good. Just like Friday, Sunday's coming. So now with basketball, you've always loved basketball. So talk about that, because I think our bridges are different in the sense that there are some things when I look back, like I always wanted to adopt a little boy from Africa. I don't know why. I just did. It just kind of was something in my heart. I never did, but this is kind of like I am now, right? But all in all, my life was not, I didn't grow up in a missionary family. I didn't even know any missionaries firsthand. So this is totally different from what the rest of my life looked like, right? But yeah, God's used it all. But for you, you always loved basketball, and God has continued to use basketball as a means for you to be able to build bridges. So tell us a little bit about that.
I had a cool high school coach, Marty Dello, and at the time it was not cool because Dello would tell me at 14, "Hey, introduce yourself and explain the camp to these 100 parents." What? Or, "Hey, we got 60 kids and 60 parents here. Introduce yourself. I'm not going to be at this training for today, so I want you to cover it." And you're having to be 16, 17, speaking in front of an audience of 60, whatever, or having to figure out this and then that. But luckily, also, I was blessed with a goofy personality. So the love of basketball, being decent at basketball, and then being able to connect with the kids was just kind of an instant, like it was fun, Coach Phil, right? They laugh, whatever, get a t-shirts, things. But now I have your ear. So when I started to see that, I can now tell you book recommendations or stay away from that crowd or things like this. And I get to have those conversations with them almost in an unguarded position because I have kids who will ask what book should I read next. hey, can I have a conversation? This is what I'm feeling I'm gonna do. This is what I might make this decision, stay away from this decision. And we get to have those conversations for mentorship. So I'm like, I'm where I'm supposed to be called because, you know, in our program, we got 150 something kids in our program who we have these relationships, and you see them say, "What up, fam?" Like right back to me. And I love that the parents are like, you know, it's cool that they say you're his favorite coach. Great. I love that when fit hits the shan, I'm the coach that they call. Kent's the coach that they call.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it could all look good on the court, but behind the scenes, like we light up because now that the mess is here, this is the entire reason why I coach. It wasn't to put a ball through the hoop. Spoiler alert. It's so that when we got here and you needed one, we can have this conversation and you knew that I cared about you enough to actually be here for it. So that, yeah.
It comes back down to the real relationships. And that's the genuineness of it. You're not doing it for yourself. Although you get great joy out of it.
I love what I do. Other than that, I love what I would not do. Even like if I was wealthy, I'd still be on the court talking to kids. Like I love that aspect of it. It's so fun watching their confidence grow. But even like the people skills, like my kids, just last night, I've taught them. You never know who's watching, so go full throttle when we're on the court. There was actually a recruiter on a different floor playing pickleball.
The pickleball, that's a whole nother show. Where did that come from?
But my kids knew eye contact, strong handshake. My college kid knew, come over and introduce yourself, because I've told him, if you ever see me talking to him, come over and introduce yourself. It's probably a conversation to open the door. The guy told my college kid, we're thinking about Creighton for you. Do you have film because you look talented enough? So he would go from D2 school to D1 school just because he wasn't walking while he was playing something we've talked about for 3 years now. And you know, to make eye contact, strong handshake, and introduce himself.
Those are life skills that are so critical and missing. And because they're missing today, it's a big standout.
When the kid has it, and the third grader goes, "Nice to meet you," with a strong handshake, like, "Yes, sir," not just one-word answers.
Yes.
It was cool. It was very cool to watch. Super proud of my kids.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And you're growing great adults, right? We're going to be able to catch the vision of what they're called to do.
And you, like seeing them after the ball stops bouncing, they are great adults. I'm super proud of all of them. Getting invited to weddings now for kids who are like super young. Like I'm so old now. But I was remember you guys in middle school? Kids already got married. But you're talking about the path, right? And around the world God in 45 minutes, I talk about the mountain. And there's a part where the path narrows and it is just you. And you have to be okay with that, because what's the other option? Going back down the mountain to a place that's complacent, to a place you're unhappy with, to a place that you're really not going to be able to help anybody. But if you get through this phase, now what do others have? Others have, well, Kelly made it. And they have a Kelly saying, well, I can tell you, step on this rock, hold this branch, move over here, don't go that one. No, I trust me, I did that. Go right through. It's going to save you so much time.
Yes.
While you elevating, you help other people know how to elevate as well, or that it's even possible, and how to do so faster and more efficient.
Yeah, and really speaking of that, I just think too, the people who have built bridges or are further along in their bridge building than someone else, you have no idea the powerful impact in the bridge, another bridge that you're building, by being able to mentor and to encourage. And to say, hey, don't do that. That probably wasn't that was a hard lesson I learned. Don't do that one, but do this. And being able to share that with one another, that's another huge thing. So I think we were talking about, were you here yet when we were talking about what causes bridges to fall? I swear my mind is.
We're going 100 miles per hour.
What's that?
We're going 100 miles per hour.
We are. So what causes bridges to fall? We talked about ego, we talked about pride. Talked about doing it for the wrong thing, wrong reason. Right. And I think when you are building a bridge, if it's all about you, or you're not willing to help others build their bridge, that could be a bridge that could be suspect to being weakened or falling.
Yeah. And even like if I'm asking you about why you do what you're passionate about from the I'm right position, here for the wrong reason. It's still my ego. Well, I'm asking her questions. You're not. You've already decided.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I've still concluded you're way over in Africa, you need to be, then I'm not. I'm asking questions in order to try to change where her heart is, and that's not the right position.
So I guess really what it comes down to today is how do you notice a bridge? How do you notice a bridge that might be needing to be built? What is it that you need to take on in order to build that bridge? What is keeping you back from taking on what you need to take on to build that bridge? Are we expecting it to be pretty and easy?
So I'll go backwards to forwards.
Yeah.
The pretty and easy part, because my next one was going to be one of the things I feel people struggle with bridge building is not adjusting to the landscape. Right. So if there's straight another flat land, great. But if there's a mountain, if there's hills, I'm gonna have to adjust to the landscape on how I formed this bridge. Sometimes that very well may be, what do you need from me in this situation? I can't tell you what you need. Well, you should be doing this, Kelly. That's probably not gonna work on all landscapes. Right? I have a buddy, he's a fan of the show, great guy, and he's going through a lot of stuff that he's overcoming. And I was like, man, what do you need? I don't want to just tell you prayers. I want to tell you should be blah blah blah. Like, what do you need? And then I can help from there. It might be a different approach. It might be an approach of, here's my intention and what I'm trying to say. And I might even be trying to say this wrong, but I promise is this. How best can I express that to you? Because I want you to know that I support what you're doing. I may have this concern, but I will back you 100% versus just talking first. Like, some people haven't slowed down, haven't gone to ask questions versus tell, haven't gone the, well, I agree with, or build rapport. Sometimes you have to build the relationship before you tell people that they're wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And not build the relationship so you can tell them they're wrong.
Oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
So it's
You get family members that come around, put their arm around you, and like, oh God, we haven't spoken in 7 years. I know I hear. But
I think the world is, and it's hard because in today's culture, I talk to more and more people. I'm sure you can agree. We have gotten time. Obviously, I think I'm realizing that time is relevant because we used to think back in the olden historical days, people were counting sand grains, right? And now we have got all these time-saving mechanisms and improvements in place, and we have less time. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So sometimes you could be listening and you'd be like, I don't have time to build a bridge. Like, how can I take on one more thing to build a bridge? How can I do it? Because people are struggling for time.
Kent did this. Oh my God! So Kent was speaking at an event, and he had a dry erase board, it's like 50 people, and he was supposed to talk on one topic. We thought, and he does this whole diagram about someone building or going to get water from here, and me and the other leader were like, "The heck is Kent talking about?" But it came down to, like, if this is the traditional pathway around here, why can't I build a bridge from this microphone to this microphone? Because this is actually going to save time in the long run. Mm-hmm. I don't have time to not build a bridge. I don't have time for my crayon and your crayon to get tripped up over this, or my letter and your letter to get tripped up over this, or my belief and your faith to get tripped up over this. We don't have time for that anymore. We're staying so busy on insignificant things, or it's only insignificant because it's belittled from our biased perspective. The topic may be big, but we're squandering over what really? Crayon color? We talk about this. Like, you got a big heart. I don't care what crayon. Let's work together and get this.
It doesn't matter what color you want.
I can't say I don't have time for a conversation that's going to make this better, that better, that better. I can make time, because what we've also seen is that people make time for what they deem important.
That's true.
Right. So if I can figure out, oh man, I binge watched You could have been on the phone. You could have had a cup of coffee with somebody. So
Well, and coming back to Christ again, it took extreme focus. It took focus.
that's another place where we struggle.
Right. Right. Well, in a world of instant gratification and everything, I find it's hard to stay focused. It's a discipline in and of itself to stay focused. And if we don't stay focused, though, we can easily get overwhelmed. Like if Jesus was focusing on all this on either side instead of just the Father and what he was called to do, he would have never made it.
There've been way too many distractions. Things get hung up on defending things that really won't matter long term. He really picked and chose, like you're saying, just look, man, the gold is in the fish's mouth. Let's get this and be on our way. We don't have time.
Yeah, and knowing the end goal is for the good of all.
Right.
Right? Like I'm sure in the middle of the actual crucifixion and being put before Pilate, and I'm sure there's a lot of people not feeling love at that moment. They weren't feeling loved.
Right.
But yet, look what that result was. So I think that there are seasons in our calling and in our journey where people around us may not understand because it doesn't make sense right in the moment. But then Sunday's coming.
To keep it with that analogy, and I'm not comparing the two as far as like impact, but it is not having time to build bridges, freeing Barabbas over Jesus. You'd rather go, so you want him free, you want to still have this chaos, you want to still have this drama, y'all still want to argue about this.
Oh, yeah.
You still want Barabbas free over the other option, which would be humbling yourself and having a conversation. Having a sit down where it's like, we don't have to voice your personal opinion. Hey, listen, at least one time in your life, sit down, ask, and don't tell. Just try it. I can't tell Kent what his experience would be like as a bank manager. I can't tell you what Uganda is like. I've never been there.
Right.
I need you to tell me, hey, don't step there. This animal does this. Like, this is actually what it is over here.
Yeah.
Cool. And be just fine absorbing for a conversation.
Yes. And just spoiler alert, we're all Barabbas.
Oh, yeah.
Just a spoiler alert. We're all Barabbas.
Oh, yeah.
That's the point. He got freed. You get freed because of what Christ did. But it's, I think for me, and this is really God's grace just on who and how he's made me to be, but I am blessed that when I go down to Uganda, I get to see the gratitude firsthand because they're just not, they're not as politically correct or they share because relationships are really built. So I do get to see there's times when I'm here and it's there and you're not there firsthand to see what's going on. It can feel like, okay, we got to keep going. It's hard, but man, I can't wait to get there because to look in their face and to see their gratitude, which is a gift. We don't always get to always see that when we're building bridges.
Right.
It gives you the fuel to keep going. Like I have no doubt that if everybody in this world could see the result and the fruit of building the bridge you're called to build, you would sell it all to build it. You would sell it all. You would be that woman with the alabaster jar pouring out all of it,
Right.
Because you just the love and the amazing gratitude and the impact would 100% make you be like, yeah, whatever I got going on just isn't worth it. Do you know what I mean? Like this is not. I'm like, and that's what I think we don't get to see. Sometimes when you send a text to somebody who is struggling and they just don't know how to respond to you, so they don't, or they're not sure and they're going to say the right thing, so they don't. You don't get to see how you totally impacted them, and maybe in some cases gave them hope to keep going that day.
Right.
But if you saw it, you would become an addict of being a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes
we just don't get to see the fruit of our bridge.
But when you do, it was like 3 Sundays ago. I do a training on Sundays from 10 to 11, 11 to 12. 10 to 11 is middle school, 11 to 12 is high school. And I didn't feel like doing this. I was like, I need to just sit. And she didn't confirm. She just brought him. One of our players moved to like an hour away, Oswego, and going through family stuff. Son's kind of struggling mentally, whatever. And it was totally cool to hear her say, "I knew if I just got him to you today, he'd be okay." And we got a chance to have some conversation, have some stuff out, give him a game plan for whatever. And he'll text me like every 2 or 3 days, "Hey, I worked on this. Hey, I got this grade up. Hey, I'm focused on this, blah, blah, blah." And then the thank you from the mom, or like the follow 2 weeks later when she brought him back again, like it was just like not even a high, just like tears. And you're like, that's cool. It's a cool feeling. It is like, how could I not have time for this?
Yes, that's what matters.
That like, what
It's
else
what
was I going to do
matters.
because I needed 45 minutes to just relax? And good. And will have, even last night when my 3 kids got a chance to meet the recruiter, my college kids got a chance. It's like I was where I was supposed to be tonight. It wasn't a big crowd, but it was a significant crowd. I was in front of who I was supposed to be in front of today, so they can get this message. Let's keep going.
Keep going. Yeah, it's so. I just think if we got to see it more. Sometimes you don't get to see it. Sometimes you don't get to see the impact that you have as you're building your bridge, wherever it may be. But the world is a heavy place, and it's dark, and people are struggling, and it's going to call you out of your comfort zone, even in the little things. And even in real estate, I people right now are selling homes usually because they have to.
Right.
Interest rates are up. You don't have it. They got to be motivated to move, right? So you see divorce, you see death, you see, reasons that people have to, financial reasons they have to move. And it's just an opportunity to make that a little bit less stressful,
Yeah.
a little bit more enjoyable, being able to infuse hope. So it doesn't matter what you do. I think infusing hope in people, you just don't know how badly people need the hope. They're struggling. People are struggling. And it's a dark world we live in.
So when you're talking about the instant gratification, and it may not always get that in what you're doing, and you're talking about you never know who needs hope. I don't know where I heard this, but it was like, just plant seed. It's not your job to figure out what it is. And what the person was saying is because there's flowers, there's fruit. So there's flowers, there's fruit, there's trees, and there's one more. But it's like the flowers are going to grow up quicker. That is going to be your like, man, thank you so much for today. We appreciate it. And you feel good about whatever you paid for someone's coffee at a Starbucks, and you got the thank you so much. We appreciate that. Fruit, it's going to take a little bit longer for it to come up, but you can feed people with that. You can help people with that. And like, just understand that might take a little bit more time, but people are going to see what you're doing. You're doing it consistently, and they'll appreciate it. That might be a women's Bible study that for the first 2 years is just 6 people, and after that, boom, you have a conference that helps 500.
Right.
And then he's like, there's trees, and if thinking about trees, like he talks about, like it was planted during Grandpa when he was a boy, and the grandson got a chance to build a tree house in it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's stuff that you're doing that it's going to live beyond you, but then others will be able to show the appreciation. And man, thanks, Granddad, and the swing and all that stuff. That was cool.
That is cool. It is cool because the fruit that we produce, there's no death in Christ.
Right.
So it's producing forever.
Right.
It's continually producing, and we just don't even know the impact of it. And I think too, it's important to tell people that they've impacted you, not to puff up their ego.
Right.
But every one of us is broken, and every one of us is wondering if what we're doing is making a difference. And there have been times, speaking of women's Bible study, where I taught women's Bible study for a really long time. And honestly, there was a place where I was like, does it really matter what I'm doing? Sometimes these women are coming, they're not finishing their lesson, they get upset if we add more people to the group, and are we becoming a whole? So all of these struggles that I was going through, and just decided, and I think in the big picture of things, it was time for me to make a change. And shortly after that is when I went to Uganda. But after it was all done, and I'm like, okay, you guys have been given everything you need to be able to lead your own studies and go
Right.
do it. And there is a woman that is leading a study from it, which is awesome because that's what's supposed to happen,
Right.
right? But it was after it was already done that people are like, you have no idea how much it impacted me. And
I didn't even know you were paying attention.
I didn't even know you were paying attention. I thought, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
I thought you were
sometimes
bored.
we
I thought
don't.
you were-
Yeah. Sometimes we just, man, we just need to take those seconds because that's a bridge builder too. That keeps the bridge going.
Because why would I keep building on you if you don't appreciate it? That's why I try to tell Kent or Zoe and thank you, God. You don't have to. He does not have to, but he does. And when you do that, what was it? It was like a man can live for another 2 weeks off just motivation or appreciation alone. Just that
Think
word.
about that.
Right.
Think about that for a second.
You do not understand when a kid's like, man, think it like I had one kid. I'll never. His name was Wyatt. Love this kid. He literally approached me and said, "I'm not very good, but I work hard."
Oh,
He goes, "So if you train me this first time and you don't see where I'm there, we want to do skill set. If you'll just tell me whatever drill it is, I'll do it." He tells me that he walks to school to get there at like 5 a.m. to work out, gets let in at whatever school he goes to, gets let in and is allowed to shoot. And he went from kind of last on the bench to 6 man. But it was like, man, thank you for changing my game. Thank you for taking the time again. Bro, you're stuck with me now. Like I'm
wow.
locked.
Can you imagine? That's a game. That's a world changer. Right
Yeah,
there.
like he worked to afford his own skills, trainings, and stuff like that. I'm like, man, like you're willing to do all that. Like, I'm in with you. I'm absolutely 1,000%. But you just saw that if you're willing to meet, if you can meet for today, but you appreciate what I'm showing you that much, I will always make time for you.
Yeah. Wow. That's somebody who's really taking in full advantage of the opportunity and has the heart to keep moving forward and keep getting better.
And I think when you see stuff like that, you're also, depending on like what your calling is, sometimes your calling is so much that you're going to have a lot of people who don't, you got to get through it. But for some other people's calling is like, you can now work with the people who appreciate you. That is an option for certain industries and certain data. Listen, I'm not going to drag you to bless you. I will bless freely, but if I'm not going to drag you to bless you.
No,
I cannot
no.
do that. I cannot do that. I will not throw it on the hard side.
No, you can't because, if you put a rope around their neck and drag them there, as soon as you let the rope go, they're going to run back to where they were.
Yeah, that was
So.
and same in the book where it's like, I'm dragging people up the mountain who don't qualify. And they're not lung capacities, leg strength. They're not ready for life up here.
I know. I love that part of the book. Talk about that a little bit.
So you're sitting there and you got, 3 of your 4 best friends, and I'm sitting there. I got Bill in one arm, you in the other arm, her in the other, and I'm trying to make it so that we all get up there. Well, I'm exhausted. Y'all are just dragging. Bill's got his heels in the ground, and it's hard to breathe up here. It's colder up here. It's not. And as soon as you let them go, they're going to go right back to where they're comfortable. They don't want to be up the mountain at this particular time. The best thing I can do is get there and then show them what the path is like.
Yeah.
You're going to run yourself ragged, and you also may not ever get there. He was better than me. When Moses didn't make it to the promised land, because he hung out with murmurers.
Yeah.
He was so busy with the murmurers. I got to do another lap. I got to do another. It's 39 years. It's year 40. You guys are going to keep murmuring in a desert because you won't stop complaining. That was it. That's the only thing that kept him from the promised land. And
Yeah, because he lost his temper and struck the rock.
And so trying to be patient around them, you missed out on your blessing because they got you to get out of character that one time.
And I read that recently. So I kind of have been struggling a little bit with it because I'm like, sometimes it feels like God was a little hard on Moses because he, right? Did a lot. But this last time I read it, I noticed that up until the very end, he still was blaming the Israelites for his disobedience.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we can all appreciate it and have empathy and understand. But it opened my eyes to like, okay, maybe it wasn't that what God was hard on him, but maybe he never repented from that.
He still held
Do you know
on
what I
to
mean?
that.
Like, I'm like, because for every time I read Moses, I'm like, man, I just feel like one screw up and he's done.
Right.
It's so hard. But yeah, repentance is key to.
Because you
I'm
had
not sure if I'm talking out of turn on that one, but I just noticed he's still blamed. I'm not getting into the promised land because of you. I'm not. There's a lot of blame there.
Ooh, you want to tag team this one?
Yeah, I want to tag team
He
it.
didn't move on because he hadn't moved on.
Ah, that's a good one.
So that's why, because he
Yeah,
hadn't
so
moved on,
maybe
he couldn't-
you're not building your bridge yet, or maybe your bridge is going to take a whole new look once you move on from something that's holding you back.
some sort of preconceived notion that you have, or bitterness, or ego. You got to figure out what that is for you.
And what keeps us from building the bridges?
Lack of obedience, excuses. If I'm on a lack of
Oh,
obedience,
totally.
excuses.
Yeah, absolutely, it is, and that can sum up a lot. Sometimes I think it's insecurities. Sometimes I think it's fear. Sometimes I think it's relying on yourself. Sometimes I think your comfort is your God. I think in America we've grown very accustomed to comfort. Probably one of our biggest barriers, right, to being able to build a bridge. And actually, this is not going to be a popular thing to say,
Nice.
but I want to call it the Instagram God, because the Instagram God is a false God.
Right.
And it's a God out there, and Instagram is probably not a fair term to use it. But all those posts and all this self-help that we've Christianized out there really gives us permission to not build the bridge. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you compare the scriptures with what a lot of little quotes out there are saying, they don't line up with who Jesus is.
True.
Jesus had some really hard teachings. He went to the cross and took on our sin. Think about that. Took on the weight of all of our sin. How often is that being preached? Or it's kind of like, I ain't taking your stuff on. I'm moving on. Right?
Yeah.
Or Jesus calls us to love our enemies and to pray for them. And that's really hard. We're all about like, you know what? You're toxic. I'm cutting you off. And there's a space and a place to have, like one of my prayers right now is really committed to saying, Lord, I want to be honorable. I want to be humble, and I want to be healthy. And I think it's really hard to be healthy if you have a bunch of unhealthy people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not minimizing that, but I think we can go to an extreme that we use that as a crutch to not be able to build and reconcile relationships that maybe we're called to.
Especially if we're going to pick and choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I have all the patience in the world for Bill but none for you, that's a problem. If I'm going to say, well, if this person was unhealthy, it was like, well, with the people that you're comfortable with, you have endless energy to put up their nonsense. You're going to be very critical of them. So if you watch them, it's based off their preference or their biases, where they're picking and choosing where they're going to cut someone off because they're tough. Keep it consistent. Give everybody that same story.
Yeah. But sometimes I think if we're looking at relationships with us as the focus, that's where it gets messy. And I think sometimes the image of even it's so anti-biblical, but we even use scriptures to build that up. Is it when we're at the center, it's a problem. Right. You know what I mean? People can use Bible verses and Christianity and all of that to make it still about us. And it's not about us. It's not about us.
Even when you said like fear, lack of self-image, and I know we got to close out. That fear, lack of self-image is I-focused, right? And the cool thing about when you look at like building a bridge, to build a bridge from me to her, I could probably do it myself and figure it out, right? But if you're building a big, significant bridge like the San Francisco bridge, I need a team. The cool thing about having a team is the stuff I don't know how to do, my teammates do.
Yes.
So I don't have to worry about it. I'm good. I'm not an architect. That's why I'm not an architect. But as soon as they told me I had to have math, then I'm not sure. So be willing to find, and a lot of times they're right around you. They're right around you, people with the skill set that will help you with whatever you're trying to do. So we appreciate you guys tuning in with us. I know it's 10 o'clock.
It is 10 o'clock. Time to go.
Time to go. Stay tuned with Bill. What's the topic for the show this week?
The pitch.
The pitch. pitch.
The pitch.
So
The pitch.
get ready for that. We love you guys for tuning in. We just totally appreciate you. Happy Easter. Stay blessed. And see you guys in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And one more thing I just want to lead with is, Sunday's coming. So whatever you're calling to take on or to put off in order to build your bridge, what's coming is much greater than what you're going to lay down. That I can promise you, because that's who Christ is.
Amen.
Amen.